It was a crystal-clear, calm morning in December 1945. The Atlantic Ocean shimmered far below, each wave catching sunlight like liquid silver. On the tarmac, Flight 19's 5 Grumman TBM Avenger planes lined up neatly, their engines humming softly as pilots made last-minute checks. Young men, highly trained and full of confidence, shared light-hearted jokes, adjusted their gear, and waved to the ground crew. Their faces were calm, their minds focused, unaware that history was silently creeping toward them. The air itself seemed innocent, almost welcoming. Soft winds brushing across the runway, gulls soaring lazily above, the scent of salt water in the breeze. But beneath this perfect morning, the Bermuda Triangle waited. It is a place where the ordinary transforms into the inexplicable, where even the most skilled pilots find themselves questioning reality itself. These planes, brimming with hope, courage, and human determination, were about to enter a sky that would never let them return. This flight, like any other at first glance, would become one of aviation's most haunting mysteries. The 5 planes lifted off the runway in perfect formation, engines roaring with precision, wings glinting under the rising sun. The ocean below stretched endlessly, a calm mirror reflecting bright skies. On the surface, everything looked safe and routine, the perfect day for a training mission. Yet, as the planes climbed, something unseen began to tug subtly at reality. The pilots, confident in their skills, felt only a vague unease at first. Their radios hummed with routine communication, instruments ticked steadily. Yet a strange sensation lingered, as if the sky itself was subtly bending, shifting, or even mocking them. Each mile flown over the infinite Atlantic pulled them closer to an invisible boundary, a space where compasses quiver, clouds seem unnatural, and the horizon becomes a puzzle without edges. The pilot's confidence remained intact, for now. But the Bermuda Triangle was silently claiming them, wrapping its mystery around every plane in the squadron. Hours into the flight, the squadron leader's voice carried slight uncertainty as he reported disorientation. The ocean below remained flawless, unbroken, offering no visual clues. Instruments that should have guided them accurately wavered inexplicably. Even experienced aviators, seasoned through countless hours of training and combat, felt an unfamiliar tension prickling at their spines. Back on the base, radio operators tried to clarify directions, but static and interference made communication difficult. The pilots realized, with growing dread, that the familiar rules of navigation seemed to no longer apply. Each compass reading contradicted the last. Clouds above shifted unnaturally. The endless blue ocean below offered nothing to ground them. The men glanced at one another, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Something beyond human understanding had already begun its subtle, invisible grip. Fear was no longer hypothetical. It was real, creeping into every decision, every glance, every breath. The planes wavered slightly, struggling to maintain formation. Pilots scanned the horizon obsessively for any landmark, but there was nothing. The sun glared overhead, reflecting sharply off the ocean's surface, disorienting eyes and creating optical illusions that made familiar navigation nearly impossible. The calm morning had transformed into a silent battlefield. The pilots, trained for combat and extreme conditions, felt unease crawling through every nerve. Radio signals seemed inconsistent, instruments contradicted each other, and the Atlantic stretched endlessly beneath them. The vast empty sky offered no guidance, no comfort, no signs of human order. Inside the planes, tension hung like a heavy fog. Each man knew instinctively that something unnatural was happening. The ordinary laws of flying seemed suspended. Every adjustment of controls made the horizon tilt further. Every check of instruments deepened the mystery. The serene, sunny morning had now become a stage for something inexplicable, a place where human skill alone could not secure survival. Then the impossible began. The squadron leader's voice wavered as he radioed to base. "We are unsure of our position." The planes, once tightly aligned, began to drift apart. Each pilot struggled against the growing uncertainty, trying to maintain formation while instruments betrayed them. On the ground, radio operators strained to give instructions, their voices rising above static, hoping guidance would reach the men above the endless Atlantic. But even the clearest instructions failed to pierce the veil of disorientation enveloping Flight 19. The ocean below remained deceptively calm, each wave reflecting sunlight innocently, masking the profound human drama occurring above. Flight 19, a squadron of skilled, confident aviators, was now trapped in a sky that refused to obey logic, navigation, or expectation. Silence began to creep in, slow and heavy, as one by one, radios fell quiet. And then, just like that, the world lost sight of Flight 19, leaving behind a mystery that would haunt aviation history, filled with courage, confusion, and unanswered questions that linger to this day. The pilots of Flight 19 felt the first undeniable touch of the Bermuda Triangle's mysterious grip. Their instruments began to fluctuate in ways no training could explain. Compasses spinning wildly, altimeters jumping erratically, radios crackling with static, as if the air itself refused to carry sound. The sun reflected off the calm Atlantic, blindingly bright, each shimmer on the water making the horizon seem impossibly far away, confusing depth and distance. Every turn of the controls required supreme effort. Every correction, a battle against an invisible force that seemed to pull at the planes like a magnetic current from the ocean itself. Inside the cockpits, the men's concentration was absolute. Eyes darting from instruments to horizon, hands white-knuckled on the yoke, their minds racing through every scenario, every contingency. Sweat trickled down brows, hearts pounded with tension, and a low, gnawing fear began to settle like a shadow. The Atlantic stretched endlessly, calm, unyielding, deceptive, while above it, 5 planes, filled with trained, capable pilots, began to dance with the incomprehensible. The Bermuda Triangle had quietly, invisibly begun to take them in its grasp. For a brief, fragile moment, the squadron seemed to regain stability. Formation lines tightened, altitudes leveled, and the sun reflected gently on the ocean below, creating a false sense of reassurance. Passengers of imagination, those who would later study this flight, could only wonder how such calm could exist in the midst of terror. In the cockpit, however, nothing was calm. Pilots felt a creeping dread, a silent oppression that twisted nerves and blurred perception. Each radio call to the base was met with garbled responses, static-filled fragments that did nothing to restore confidence. The Atlantic's endless blue seemed to warp reality. Waves appearing to shift positions, distant clouds bending unnaturally, light refracting in ways that mocked human perception. The pilots exchanged tense, knowing glances. Every trained instinct screamed that something was profoundly wrong. This was no longer a simple navigation error. The world itself seemed to have shifted, leaving men alone in a sky that no longer obeyed laws, leaving Flight 19 suspended between courage and incomprehensible mystery. Little by little, the tight formation began to unravel. One plane drifted slightly, then another, until the once solid squadron seemed to float apart across an infinite ocean of blue pilots called out, attempted corrections, adjusted controls, but the horizon itself seemed to deceive them. Instruments contradicted each other, compasses wobbled violently, and the ocean's calm surface reflected sunlight in a way that further distorted perception. The men gripped the yokes with white-knuckled intensity, adrenaline coursing through every muscle. Experienced aviators who had flown hundreds of missions felt an unprecedented helplessness. Below them, the Atlantic lay vast, endless, indifferent, mocking their struggles. Radio operators on the ground shouted instructions that barely traveled through static, voices lost in the expanse of distance and interference. Flight 19 was slowly dissolving into the Bermuda Triangle's grasp, each second stretching into eternity, each mile deeper into the unknown. As hours passed, panic began to infiltrate even the most disciplined minds. Pilots shouted commands, recalculated endlessly, searched for visual clues that did not exist. Each movement and decision weighted with unbearable pressure. Yet even as fear surged, courage emerged in raw, almost palpable form. Every pilot fought to maintain control, to hold formation, to keep alive the chance of returning home. Sweat streamed down faces, hands shook against yokes, yet no one relinquished control. Radio static filled the air, punctuated by brief fragments of coherent words. Desperate attempts to reconnect with the familiar world below the Atlantic, serene and endless, seemed to shift beneath them, a living ocean indifferent to the lives suspended above it. Every maneuver was heroic. Every decision was a defiance against forces invisible, unimaginable. The men were trapped in a sky that no longer answered to human skill, yet they flew with all the courage, all the determination, and all the hope they could muster. Flight 19 had become a theater of terror and heroism intertwined, a story written in real time against a backdrop of infinite blue. And then, as though the world itself had swallowed them, Flight 19 disappeared. The planes vanished into the Atlantic's vast expanse as if the ocean had opened a silent, invisible gate. Radios went dead. Engines disappeared from sight. Pilots were gone, their heroism frozen in the minds of history, their final moments a mix of courage, confusion, and unanswerable questions. The Atlantic remained calm, sparkling in the sun, deceptively peaceful, hiding the profound human drama that had occurred above its surface. Back on the base, frantic operators searched, shouted, tracked, but could find nothing. Families and colleagues would wait, worry, grieve, and search for answers that would never come. Flight 19 became legend, a testament to bravery and the unknowable mysteries of nature. Its disappearance was not just a loss of planes or men, but a loss of certainty, a reminder that even in clear skies and bright sunlight, there are forces beyond understanding. The Atlantic kept its secret, the Bermuda Triangle claimed its legend, and humanity was left humbled, awed, and forever haunted by what vanished into the unknown.